Yo, hello, hi. I feel like if you're up to date with adaptations, you understand they mostly suck. Dragon Ball Evolution, Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, and of course the M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Last Airbender, where the world was met with
Aang.
My name is Aang.
Now it's been 14 years since this travesty of a movie released, and adaptations have gotten a big resurgence. The Last of Us has been the biggest success of this, and people really enjoyed One Piece, which made me more excited to dive into Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. Still having PTSD from the 2010 movie, I was really skeptical, especially since the creators of the show actually left in 2020 due to creative reasons. But I pushed forward and watched all 8 episodes in one afternoon, and to my surprise, it was actually an easy 6.5 hour binge. Now there's a lot of opinions on this show, some good, some not so good. I'll break it down for you, and if you haven't watched the show yet, I would definitely advise to do so as there's gonna be tons of spoilers in this, but if you don't care and are going in raw, buckle up.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
Now the show is condensed into 8 episodes from the 20 episodes in which we saw from the animation. Right away, the live action shows the destruction the Fire Nation caused at the Southern Air Temple. The first real look at the Airbender's death, and it really sets the mature tone the showrunners wanted for this. But generally the first 2 episodes follow the beginning of the animation. Aang being found and saved by Katara and Sokka while also saving Kyoshi Island from the Fire Nation's attack. The main difference we see on Kyoshi Island is the communication Aang has with Avatar Kyoshi, and allowing her to use Aang's body as a vessel for the Avatar's state powers to emerge. This being the first time we've seen this, and I think it translates really well. During Kyoshi Island, the same arc occurs with Sokka, but in a less sexist way. It's mainly an interaction of 2 awkward teenagers who like each other and want to show off their skills to one another in combat. Suki trains Sokka in the Kyoshi fighting style, but he never dons the Kyoshi ritual armor. Personally, I think Sokka needs that negative character trait to show development within the series to respect not just the Kyoshi warriors, but Katara and other women as a whole. Another big miss from these episodes was their presentation and use of the waterbending scroll. It does make sense that Gran would have given Katara the scroll for her journeys, so that was great, but the learning of the scroll was very downplayed, and this was also the first time we get to see Aang waterbend within the animation. Instead, he's just giving Katara these teachings he was told from the monks. It's so grazed over that we just never see any further attempts from the Avatar to learn one of the 4 elements. So I would say that was like a bit frustrating. Besides that, I do think their casting of Suki was excellent, and having Aang speak to Avatar Kyoshi and kind of expand on the previous Avatars more helps the story along. I think these episodes 1 and 2 was a fine start to the show, and I'd probably give them like a 7 out of 10 to begin with. Now episodes 3 and 4 covers Omashu, King Bumi, Jet, Sai, and Tio, basically covering all adventures around the Earth Kingdom. Personally, I think these were the weakest episodes and didn't adapt very well in live action. Not only were these episodes extremely fast-paced, just like the entirety of this show, but the goofiness of King Bumi comes off to be more awkward than comedic.
And maybe I just wanted a bite of rock candy.
I think the showrunners did an overall decent job with mashing these storylines together, but a big problem is not letting a lot of these plot points breathe. Unfortunately, there's so many things happening that you really don't develop feelings for Jet and the Freedom Fighters, or Sai and Tio's situation with the Fire Nation. A big oddity you start to realize is that Aang doesn't really form much of a relationship with Katara and Sokka through these episodes. Yes, they're all traveling together, and we assume they're bonding off screen through their travels along to these several locations, but it would be nice to see that a little bit more. Especially with the Into the Dark episode. Originally, that's Aang and Katara experiencing this togetherness through the tunnels, but instead it's substituted by Sokka and Katara. We already know the relationship is brother and sister. I don't think we need more bonding between them. I will say, for the little time that Jet and Sai were shown on screen, I think they did a really good job acting-wise, as well as this random Earth Kingdom guard. He had like 3 minutes of screen time and showed more emotion than some of the main characters through the entire show.
War pushes us to the edge. Some of us don't like what we find there.
Is that your pitiful way of saying you're sorry for what you did?
Oh, and the Cabbage Man showed an appearance. Who doesn't love that?
My cabbage!
I would say these episodes are pretty middle of the ground, and I would give them like a 5 out of 10. At this point I was thinking, this is gonna be a real stinker. But then episode 5, Spirited Away, and episode 6, Masks, are banger episodes. They incorporate a lot of content to form the Spirited Away episode, like the Spirit of the Forest, the team's encounter with Ko, a 3-tailed fox which speaks to Sokka, which is explained later, and the owl giving guidance to the team where we originally saw him in the library from the animation. So they condensed a lot of spirits into this one episode, and the overlapping touch of them translated really well. While in the spirit world, traumatic events from the team's past occur, Katara seeing her mother being murdered by the Fire Nation right in front of her, and Sokka overhearing from his father that his ice dodging skills were a disappointment. Building of these backstories lets us actually care for these characters much more, and it was definitely needed. This is also where we see Zuko and Iroh hiring June to track down the Avatar. This episode alone has so many well-displayed CGI creatures that represents the animation perfectly. Many events occur which lead to episode 6, where Aang must travel to the fire temple of Avatar Roku to speak with him on how to free Sokka and Katara from Ko in the spirit world. While there, he finds out that Roku had taken a trinket of Ko's that he could trade for his friends back. But before being able to do so, June captures Aang at the temple with the help of her Shirshu Nyla, and is given over to Zuko and Iroh. Unfortunately, Commander Zhao is one step ahead of them, as he stops Zuko and claims the Avatar for himself, where we're led to Aang being held in Powai Stronghold.
We have captured the Avatar!
I think now you can understand how fast-paced this show really is. But as we look to Powai Stronghold, this is generally a 1-to-1 on the episode where Zuko becomes the Blue Spirit and helps Aang escape. These action sequences had great choreographed work and gave off the same aura that you feel from the original show. The aftermath of them talking and getting to know each other more is actually really nice to see. This is the one time where the show feels like it slows down and the viewer can enjoy the relationship building. Even though it feels like Aang and Zuko become closer with each other and have had more meaningful conversations than what he has with Sokka or Katara. This is where they expand heavily on Zuko's backstory as well, why he is out trying to capture the Avatar, how he was given the crew of people, which we found out is the 41st Division, a group of new firebending recruits that were going to be sacrificed for a battle, but instead given to Zuko because he spoke out against the orders, leading to an Agna Kai with Ozai. I've seen numerous people upset with this rendition of Zuko and Ozai's fight. Many people found it blasphemous that Zuko ended up fighting his father here, when really you could just look at this differently. Ozai is giving Zuko an order to fight. Zuko doesn't want to disappoint his father, so he does just that. During the fight, Zuko is holding back because he doesn't want to hurt his father. Not that he could, because Ozai is said to be one of the best firebenders to ever live, and Ozai knows that. Being an insane manipulative leader, why would it be outlandish for Ozai to purposefully leave an opening for Zuko to strike him to not show weakness or compassion? Ozai does just that, and Zuko doesn't hit his father. Because of this, Ozai burns the scar upon Zuko's face.
Passion is a sign of weakness.
I I don't see anything wrong with this scene, and I think it captures the correct tone of who each character is. I think many people like to nitpick certain things from the show and hate because the masses are hating. Personally, these are some of the best episodes from the series, and I give it an 8 out of 10. The last episodes we see is the team being in the Northern Water Tribe, and I'm glad they took these last 2 episodes to just kind of let the plot and environment and character stories breathe, as I said before. Yue actually explaining how she was able to talk to Sokka in the spirit world, revealing that she was the three-tailed fox. We also got to see Katara's experience with Master Pakku, with him telling her that their culture doesn't allow women to fight. This is where I was a bit confused with the showrunners changing Sokka from being a sexist, ignorant kid at the beginning of the show, if sexism is still demonstrated later on. I found it to be odd because that was a massive part of his development as a character. During these episodes though, Aang never really shows any interest in practicing waterbending, but to instead ask for help from Avatar Kuruk, someone they barely, if at all, touched on in the animation. I do like expanding on previous avatars, as I said previously, and hearing more of their backstories, but the writers are missing the entire point of why the team went to the north. It wasn't just to have Katara learn waterbending, it's to have the Avatar learn waterbending as well. I think they passed over that opportunity, especially since the first season is called The Book of Water, yet Aang doesn't exhibit any waterbending abilities. It's just kind of an obvious miss. Later we see Commander Zhao using the air balloon, which was constructed from Sai in earlier episodes, to reach the Water Tribe's oasis where he would take out the moon spirit, further expanding with the use of Avatar Kuruk's spiritual dagger, which gives the user the ability to kill a spirit. There are a few things that I want to touch on here. Even though Yue's costume was a little bit not great, I think Amber Midthunder did a great job with her acting. I think they very easily could have casted Master Pakku as an older actor rather than presenting this amalgamation of makeup and bald cap combo. And one of the final parts of the show is Katara whispering to Aang, who's like 100 meters away, saying he needs to stay with them. It just comes off as silly. I mean, look at this.
Aang, listen to me.
He can't!
I know.
Regardless of the issues I had with these episodes, I feel the battle in the north accurately depicted the devastation Commander Zhao caused upon killing the moon spirit, and also the cinematography truly shined in live action. And I would maybe give like a 7 out of 10 for these episodes as well. The shining stars here are Dallas Liu as Zuko, Paul Sun-hyung Lee as Iroh, Daniel Dae Kim as Ozai. Some side characters like Jet, Sai, and June I think were really great castings, while Aang, Katara, Azula, Mei, and Ty Lee's characters were very not amazing in my eyes.
I'll burn everyone in the world until he admits the truth.
What truth?
That I'm the one.
Katara never seemed like that mature older sister that we see from the show, and Aang seemed too animatronic. Basically everything that he would say would be delivered in such a robotic way. It's like when someone is reading a paper they wrote for school, and the parts are very pronounced.
A lot of the time when I was supposed to be meditating, I was actually sleeping. I always got caught. Probably didn't help that I snored.
But at the same time, I'm not gonna say it's all Gordon Cormier's fault. He's just a kid, and just like the Avatar, he needs guidance to act when the director sees fit. I just kind of hope that they tighten the strings on some of these characters for the second season, if there is gonna be a second season.
I'm sorry if this is unexpected, but they are not able to announce a season 2 for our show. They're not able to announce a season 2 because they would like to announce season 2 and 3.
Overall, I think if you look at this show as being its own entity and separating it from the amazing animation, you'll find that it does many things right and actually outweighs the negatives. Something that seems to be apparent in today's world is that if this show isn't amazing, it's ass. If it's good, it's horrible. If it's mid, it's the worst thing imaginable. People will look at reviews before even watching a show to judge whether they'll watch it or not. Even just looking at reviews to gather an opinion on a subject. Obviously though, if you've watched the show and didn't vibe with it, that's fine. We all have different opinions on games, movies, shows, media, and that's what makes discussions really interesting, rather than living in this echo chamber of everyone agreeing with one another. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you spending the time and hanging out and listening to me ramble on. Let me know if you guys enjoyed hearing my take on this show. Usually I make content on video games, but I think it would be really interesting to expand into movies and shows as well. Leave a like if you made it this far, and comment what type of bending you would have in the Avatar world. Subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you on the next one.